Tonight on Murrow News 8, an update on COVID-19 cases in Whitman County.
And some coaches may be getting different pay next year. Murrow News 8 starts now.
Murrow News 8 starts right now.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Zach Miller.
And I'm Caitlin Rappel. Welcome back to Murrow News 8.
The Director of Public Health in Whitman County told Murrow News 8 earlier this afternoon the number of COVID-19 cases in the county has stayed at 12 today. With the number of negative tests at 401, the Whitman County has not had a death related to COVID-19 yet. Previously, it was reported that a man died from COVID, but later the department retracted this because the man lived in Whitman County in the past, but did not live here at the time of his death. The department is also still not releasing the placement of the positive cases because they want people to continue social distancing even if there is no one in their community with a positive test result.
A two-vehicle crash earlier this morning closed a section of the Pullman-Moscow highway. The crash was reported at 6:54 a.m. at the intersection of State Route 270 and Terraview Drive. Two people were transported to Pullman Regional Hospital, one with life-threatening injuries. The closed portion was Bishop Boulevard to just east of Airport Road near the Idaho border. The section was reopened around 1 p.m. today.
Now we have a report from Kirsten Rosser about what state officials are thinking about moving forward during the coronavirus. Kirsten?
Thanks, Zach. Well, as of today, the East and West Coast have teamed up to form their own regional PACTS. That way they can work together on how to reopen after the stay-at-home orders are lifted. You know, it first started with the East Coast. Governor Andrew Cuomo said his state, New York, as well as New Jersey, Connecticut, Pennsylvania, Delaware, Rhode Island, and Massachusetts will be a part of that East Coast group. They plan to name a public health and an economic official to kind of work on a plan of reopening. Then the West Coast states of California, Oregon, and Washington announced that they'll be joining the forces as well. They kind of plan to begin an incremental release of these stay-at-home orders. Governor Gavin Newsom of California, where I currently am, announced that the West Coast will find a safe yet responsible way to kind of get things back into business and slowly restart again. So that's all I have here, but back to you, Caitlin.
Thanks, Kirsten. Well, after a 10-hour meeting on April 3rd, the Service and Activities Fee Committee members decided to make budget cuts that would allow for the S&A fees to stay at $558 for the 2020 to 2021 school year. Committee members like Quentin Bercampus did not feel comfortable raising the fees when so many students are struggling financially due to COVID-19. Enrollment is expected to decrease in the fall as well, which will also decrease the revenue coming from the fee. Maggie McFadden, WSU Budget Office and Policy Analyst, said that a 0% increase on the fee means requested allocations from student groups will have to be cut by about 12% in order to avoid overspending.
WSU has finalized its candidates for provost and executive vice president down to 4. Andre Dennis Wright, the Dean of the College of Agricultural, Human, and Natural Resource Sciences at WSU, had an online interview with the search committee today. Robert McMaster, the Vice Provost and Dean of the Undergraduate Education at the University of Minnesota, will interview tomorrow. Wednesday's interview will be with Tammy Idle, the Vice Provost and Professor of Sociology at Montana State University. The fourth finalist won't be identified until 48 hours before their interview on April 20th. All interviews will take place from 1 to 2 p.m.
The second draft of the 2020 to 2025 WSU strategic plan has new revisions based on the feedback received from the WSU community. The goal of the plan is to have WSU be recognized as one of the nation's top 25 research institutions while also maintaining their principles as a land-grant research university. Revisions include the elimination of coded language to focus on dialogue between communities, an emphasis on sustainability, and WSU's role in responding to healthcare needs of Washington residents. Well, it seems like Pullman isn't getting those April showers we always hear so much about. What does our forecast look like today, Sophia?
Well, you're right, Caitlin. Actually, today the high in Pullman is around 51 degrees, and it will be mostly sunny throughout the entire day. So take advantage of the sun today, but also remember to, for example. That doesn't mean you can't soak up that sun in your backyard, though, so don't worry about that. And then it's going to get a little colder again tonight, with the low being around 35 degrees. Tomorrow looks like another beautiful day with the high being 59. Again, try and refrain from parks or hanging out with friends you may have not seen since this all started. Try and take advantage of the great weather as best you can, just from a distance. Across the state, we are seeing lots of sunshine. Olympia and Seattle have highs in the low 60s today. Yakima has a high of 63, and the Tri-Cities have a high of 66. Olympia is the only low tonight that will get below 40 over on the west and central side of the state. Spokane has a high of 54 and a low of 39. And again, Pullman has a high of 51 and a low of 35. We are seeing some great weather across the state, so you can take a walk with your dog or with a roommate. But if not, staying inside may not be much fun with this weather, but it's still the safest thing to do. The rest of the week in Pullman looks just as nice as today, with a high of 58 tomorrow, 54 on Wednesday, 55 Thursday, and 63 on Friday. No rain at all this week, but the nights still will get a bit chilly, so just be aware of that, especially if you're like an essential worker and need to drive. Your windshield still could potentially get some frost on there. But for the most part, it looks like lightweight clothing weather for the rest of the week. That's all I have today. Back to you, Zach.
Thanks, Sophia. The Census Bureau wants more time for the 2020 census to be completed. The Bureau asked Congress today for an extension to October 31st. Instead of the previous deadline, August 15th. The Bureau asked for the delay after they shut down their field office mid-March and won't reopen until sometime after June 1st. This means some states will not receive population information until June 2021, instead of in February 2021. Now we have Ariel Yacobazi with some news about voluntary pay cuts for some key WSU figures. Ariel?
Thanks, Zach. According to the Seattle Times, WSU coaches Nick Rolovich and Kyle Smith, along with WSU Director of Athletics Pat Chun, will be receiving a 5% salary reduction in light of COVID-19 to help make up for lost NCAA distribution. These salary containments will help save a total of a little more than $283,000 in total expenditures. These temporary cost-cutting strategies are in line with other athletic departments across the nation. I did listen in on a conference call today, just before this newscast, with the Director of Athletics, Pat Chun, and when asked about if these decisions were voluntary, here's how he responded.
It is all voluntary. So these are, with myself, with Kirk, with Nick and Kyle, these are all voluntary actions. With the goal of trying to help out the greater good and understanding what's going on our campuses and not having students here. So I think once I talk to Kirk and once we talk through the why and the what, I think the great thing with not only Nick and Kyle but with all of our coaches is the discussion shifts right away on what can we do to serve and what can we do to help. So these aren't taxing discussions. These are all of our coaches know what's at stake here, and all of our coaches want to contribute to the greater good.
According to ESPN, Tarvaris Jackson, former quarterback for the Vikings and the Seahawks, was killed in a car crash on Sunday. Jackson was Russell Wilson's backup in the Seahawks Super Bowl 48 against the Denver Broncos. Jackson was also the Tigers quarterback's coach since 2019. Coming out of ESPN, an idea was proposed by an NBA league employee that a 25-day program could be implemented for players to go through before they resume game play. This plan would basically consist of players undergoing an 11-day stretch of individual workouts, where they maintain social distancing, of course, while also getting back in shape. Next, if authorized by medical officials, the idea would allow for a 2-week-long training camp with entire team participation. According to ESPN, medical teams and league executives have expressed concern about the NBA's timeline for the rest of the season. Some NBA executives, according to the ESPN article, believe players may need almost a month of prep before returning to the court. That's all I've got for sports today. Back to you, Zach.
Thanks, Ariel. Because of the COVID-19 restrictions, Uniontown wasn't able to host their annual Easter egg hunt. According to the Moscow Pullman Daily News, the small town instead had the Easter Bunny pass out bags of candy and toys in front of City Hall. Markings were made on the ground to make sure everyone stayed 6 feet apart. People were also able to drive right up to the bunny and get their candy if they wanted to. Well, that's all from us here today at Murrow News 8.
You can watch us live on YouTube every weekday at 5:30.
And remember, news content can still be found at nwpb.org/MN8. And don't forget to follow us on social media.
Have a good night, stay home, and stay healthy.